ولد ذاك الوقت واحدة وراني مازال قاعد حتى نط القنبلة. الفايدة الشامبرة دوات وهو والو لا القنبلة تاع الرجال والزف نتاعها لولاد سعيد. الزف نتاعها في ولاد سعيد جا واحد الريح من بعد واحد الريح هذاك الريح كتل ديك البله هذيك 25 بعد ماتت ليا في ذاك العام. ياسر ناس مرضت ياسر ناس مرضت لقيت عليهم امراض اللي ما يعرفوها كاع. انا ماتوا لي 7 اولاد ماتوا دروكا مازال راه الناس تموت.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This is one of the many episodes of the glorious Algerian history. This is a movie clip of an Algerian mountain being nuked from the inside in a test that went out of control. I tried to look for the exact location of this mountain and I was able to find this match. We can see it from a different angle here too. I was able to match all the photos I found for this mined mountain and its surroundings with this location on the map. Even the hole created by the detonation is there as well. The proof that this test went out of control is the audio recording of the engineers working on this project at that same location. I got that audio, so listen with me.
Jusqu'à là. Et regardez en bas, oui, ça y est, ça c'est mauvais. Oh, ça débouche. Ça c'est mauvais, ça c'est le cadre qui débouche. Allez, rentrez dans les cabines.
And since we now know the location of this nuclear test, we can see that this area is only 370 kilometers away from the very touristic Tassili area. The mountain itself is full of antiques. These big stones are the remnants of that bombing and they still have archaeological drawings on them. Life, for humans, animals, and vegetation stopped at that location because of its high levels of radiation. This is why we, Algerians, should be committed to claim our rights that France pays for all of the damage caused by these nuclear tests. The witness at the beginning of the video was talking about the nuclear test of Aachen. That was the first bombing out of 17 nuclear tests performed by France in our country. Today, we want to implicate France with a question and a logical sequence. We are not going to read from documents, but we are mostly going to explain the legal situation of the 17 nuclear bombs tested on Algerian soil. We start from this question. Was Algeria considered by the French, during the colonization, part of their country or a country of other people? I mean from the legal and official point of view during colonization. From this question, we start. We cite Corsica, which is a French island. It was picked to be the location of their second test after their first one in Aachen, Algeria. And the exact location for this future test is this one. It's an old mine from which minerals were extracted. It's located between Galleria and Calvi in the northern of Corsica. The test was cancelled. The question is why they cancelled in their country and went ahead for more bombings in Algeria. The answer to this question is here, in this article of the newspaper Corse Matin, or Corsica Morning. The title of the article is How Corsica Saved Itself from Having a Nuclear Base on Its Land. Here it says, 3 weeks to force the state to back off, in this order. In April 14th, 1960, 2 French ministers from the Atomic Energy Ministry declared that the site for their nuclear test will be in Argenteuil, that we saw in the map before. Just 6 days after that, in April 20th, many elected officials, union officials, and representatives of the associative world called for mobilization in Ajaccio, Bastia, Corte, and also in Marseille and Paris. After 3 days, despite the government assured the people that the tests do not present any danger to humans, it just did exacerbate the anger of the Corsican. The government didn't find any other way but to retract completely from this project and forget about the site. This is Argentella's mayor at the time who negotiated with the government. The latter tried to convince the mayor and his team to allow these tests on the designated remote mountain, but they failed, and the government was forced to back off.
Et donc, on a constitué tout de suite une association. Je vous donne une idée, très vite, on était quand même 650 inscrits. Et là, on a commencé à se battre.
So, from the experience of Corsica, the bombing operation cannot be done with force regardless of population's opinions. It has to be done with consultation and negotiation. If they agree, the project can go ahead, and if they don't, it shouldn't be done with force. And here, we go back to the trial we're doing today, that it should go to the International Criminal Court. We say to the French presidency now, if Algeria was French in those days, this means, in regard to the law, it's the same as Corsica. Why didn't you consult the people of Rogan about what you were trying to do? Why didn't you warn them ahead of time to take special precautions, the same way you did in Corsica, when you declared to the people that you wanted to detonate a nuclear bomb? Now, if you say that Algeria, in regards to the law, was not French land, and it was a colonization or military presence, then who gave you the right to detonate a nuclear bomb on other people's land, which is a proven crime and requires international trials, especially that the international community, in 1957, condemned this French nuclear project in particular, and rejected that France would do any nuclear tests.
L'Assemblée générale de novembre dernier condamna les projets français malgré les assurances données par notre délégué, M. Jules Moch.
Pourquoi nous demande-t-on préparer cette explosion au Sahara?
So we do have an international law to prevent France in particular to do any nuclear bombing in the Sahara, yet it did, and not in their land like the Americans, but on other people's land. This is the UN General Assembly publication in 1957. It says here that the UN recommends that countries should inform the UN about any plan for nuclear test explosions. So, in regards to the international law, France had to inform the UN on one side, but also the people of Rogan on the other side for the test to be within the legal framework. Now, we would just need good lawyers to constitute a solid file to start suing them again. The area of Algeria, unfortunately, is not 2,381,741 kilometers squared. We have now to decrease thousands of kilometers squared that France poisoned with radioactive plutonium. These areas cannot be inhabited, cannot be cultivated, cannot be exploited for any activity, nor can we even get close to it. We go now to the French official journal. This is law number 2010-2, dated January 5th, 2010. Read with me. Any person suffering from a radiation-induced disease resulting from exposure to ionizing radiation due to French nuclear tests, and registered on a list fixed by decree in the Council of State in accordance with the work recognized by the international scientific community, can obtain full compensation of his prejudice under the conditions provided by this law. If the person is deceased, the claim for reparation can be made by his heirs. And, since all of the French that worked on these projects in Algeria got compensated in accordance to this law, the Algerians should be first to apply for compensation. The Algerians living in and around the regions where these nuclear tests were performed, and any Algerians living away from these regions but were affected, or anyone from his or her family by radioactivity, should have rights on these compensations. So, any Algerian in these groups above can look for a lawyer, go through the laws, then write to this lawyer a request with all the details, and he can go and get his right as an individual, because this law includes by their own admittance not only the areas of the tests, but also the oasis surrounding these areas. We open a parenthesis here. This compensation is for the people affected during the 60s. Now, what about the people who are still getting sick up to these days? What about the compensation related to vegetation and animals that were affected? What about the wells and underground water? What about the precious metals and minerals in those regions that we could not exploit? For all of these reasons, this file should be on the top of the files and on top of the outstanding issues between Algeria and France. I hope this was an addition to your historic knowledge. Wa assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.